Not too long ago, our oceans efficiently absorbed excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. However, as pollution rates began to rise, more plastic made its way into the ocean. This, in addition to the added carbon in the air due to the emission of fossil fuels, led to more greenhouse gases and many other environmental issues. This problem persists today, and it is more important than ever that we act now.
So the ocean is an enormous sink of carbon. So it has the ability of taking the carbon that we put in the atmosphere and sucking it in. Of all the carbon that is in the Earth's system, if you take the atmosphere, the ocean, and the forests and the land, most of the carbon is already in the ocean. The ocean has this ability of really take up a lot of carbon. But also these abilities can be altered by human activities, by what we do to the ocean.
Plastic does have a big impact on the ocean's carbon sinks. So that's just another reason why we need to keep our plastics out of the ocean, because not only is it hurting the animals, it is also hurting our carbon sinks, which we desperately need to protect because they have such a major impact on us and our lives.
The oceans are not just a romantic curiosity. The oceans regulate climate, generate oxygen we breathe, and they control our weather.
In the next 20 years, we would like to see more legislative efforts to protect our oceans, which are home to some of the most expansive carbon sinks in the world. Carbon sinks, like mangrove or kelp forests, help sequester carbon from the atmosphere and store it. However, plastic pollution has been preventing this process from taking place by adding excess carbon into the atmosphere and also affecting the ocean's inhabitants and ecosystems.
All this carbon that we're putting in the atmosphere doesn't stay necessarily there. And we know that something like a third of that has gone into the ocean. And today, every time we put a molecule of CO2 in the atmosphere, if we put 4 molecules, one of those is going to go into the ocean.
Kelp is very important, not only because it is a major ecosystem, but also because it is one of the major carbon sinks. It takes in approximately 200 million tons of carbon per year. So when things like the kelp population is down, then those 2 million tons of carbon isn't getting taken out of the air.
Microplastics can easily infiltrate an animal's body. This can lead to unstable population in polluted areas, the extinction of keystone species, and the collapse of ecosystems and their carbon sinks.
The biggest sources of microplastics are textiles or fabrics from the clothes that we wear. And every time you wear a piece of clothing and wash it in the washing machine, it releases all these tiny little fibers. So they often get discharged into the lakes and rivers and oceans. Another is fragments from tires from our cars. Every time a car is driven, little tiny microscopic pieces of those tires are getting released onto the roads and eventually often into the sewer or storm systems and again into lakes, rivers, and oceans ultimately.
Kelp. That is one of the ocean's carbon sinks. But another one is mangrove forests. And both of those can get things easily tangled in them. So when plastic is floating around and other trashes are floating around, they will get stuck in the roots and the leaves of the kelp. And then the animals will lose an ecosystem and they won't be able to live on this kelp or live in the mangrove roots or even eat the kelp because they might instead accidentally eat some plastic, which is also detrimental to those animals.
The smaller the piece of the plastic, the more potential it has to harm animal health. And that's because if you think about it, how tiny our blood capillaries and veins are and our skin cell barriers. So the smaller the little pieces of plastic, the more the ability for them to enter systems and potentially cause damage that way.
Polluting coastal water might affect the organism, the life that lives there. There is a lot of ecosystem near the coast, like mangroves, wetlands, kelp forest, that might contribute to this ability of sequester carbon in the sediment. So altering those might reduce the sink of carbon in the ocean.
The government plays a crucial role in the protection of oceans, and this is why we believe that our political figures must step up and start acting on this issue.
Policy has such a big role to play in terms of creating true changes that will be sustained in time. What's really exciting is that when you have a lot of people that are calling for action, it helps these policies to pass over time that can be adopted at a larger scale.
Though there are many solutions to this issue, we believe that the most important is to stop polluting our oceans with plastic to ensure the health of our carbon sinks.
But how?
The best thing to do is to just not use plastic, right?
Though it will be difficult, the one most sustainable solution to plastic pollution in our ocean is to completely stop the use of plastic.
In the next 20 years, we would like to see more legislative efforts to protect the inhabitants and habitats of our oceans. This can help us reverse the effects of global warming and guide us towards a healthier future.